The awakening. The soft hum of the interstellar transport vessel felt different this morning. Miss Reiki, a seasoned raw xenobiologist, stretched her iridescent scaled limbs, her slitted eyes adjusting to the artificial morning lighting of her personal quarters. The alarm clock, a vintage Earth artifact from the late 20th century, sat quietly beside her, a relic of human technological nostalgia that both fascinated and perplexed her. Her partner, Caden, stirred beside her, his human warmth a stark contrast to her own reptilian physiology. Zra were cold-blooded creatures, their internal temperature regulation a marvel of evolutionary adaptation. Humans, by comparison, were walking thermal anomalies, biological furnaces that defied traditional xenobiological understanding. Another day of teaching, Reiki murmured to herself, carefully extracting herself from Caden's sleep-tangled embrace. The interspecies dynamics of their relationship were a constant source of both scientific fascination and personal complexity. The Confederation of Stellar Races had long been studying humans, but no species had proven more enigmatic, more unpredictable, or more fundamentally bizarre than humanity. Their biological systems seemed almost designed to break every conventional rule of sentient species survival. Take reproduction, for instance. Most sentient races had carefully regulated mating cycles, precise hormonal triggers, and complex social rituals surrounding procreation. Humans. They were walking hormone factories, capable of sexual response at seemingly random intervals, with a reproductive drive that bordered on the compulsive. Reiki's research had documented countless peculiarities. Human immune systems were incredibly adaptive. Where other species might require months of medical intervention for a simple infection, humans could often overcome diseases through what they casually termed, fighting it off. Their capacity for biological resilience was nothing short of miraculous. Coffee, another human invention that defied galactic understanding, began brewing in the corner. The rich aroma filled the quarters, a daily ritual that spoke volumes about human culture. No other planet could successfully cultivate the complex coffee plant. Earth maintained a near monopoly on its production, an economic leverage point that continually frustrated xenoeconomists. As a xenobiology instructor, Reiki knew today's lesson would be challenging. Her students, a diverse mix of young beings from across the Stellar Confederation, were increasingly curious about human biological mysteries. And she was simultaneously their most knowledgeable and most reluctant expert. Her specialized research into human pheromones, reproductive strategies, and physiological adaptations had made her something of a celebrity in xenobiological circles. But it also meant her classes were always intense. The coffee machine gurgled its final notes, a percussion to her morning contemplations. Humans and their stimulants, another biological curiosity. Where most species would be incapacitated by constant caffeine intake, humans seemed to thrive on it, turning chemical stimulation into a cultural art form. Caden emerged from the bathroom, his blonde hair still damp, a vision of human genetic potential. Athletic, warm, with skin that seemed to radiate its own internal energy. Ready for another day of enlightening young minds, he asked, knowing full well the mix of excitement and trepidation such a prospect held for her. Reiki's response was a scaled eyebrow raise, a gesture that had become her trademark among her students. Always, she said, her voice a mix of dry humor and professional dedication. Little did she know how profoundly this day would challenge everything she thought she understood about human biology. The classroom of curiosity. The lecture hall buzzed with anticipation. Rows of alien students, each representing a different species from across the Stellar Confederation, waited with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Miss Reiki stood at the front, her scaled form a stark contrast to the sleek, technological environment of the Xenobiology Research Institute. Ramir, a young Ipel with vibrant yellow skin, leaned forward. Her species was known for their insatiable curiosity, and today's topic promised to be explosive. So, she called out, a mischievous glint in her multifaceted eyes, today we're diving into human biology. Reiki suppressed a sigh. The previous day's corridor discussions had made it clear that her students were hungry for details. Humans were an enigma, a species that seemed to defy every biological norm established by centuries of interstellar research. Before we begin, Reiki started, activating the holographic display, I want to set some ground rules. Human biology is not a spectacle. It's a complex system of adaptation, survival, an evolutionary marvel that deserves serious scientific respect. The display flickered to life, showing a detailed anatomical representation of a human body. Unlike most sentient species in the Confederation, humans possessed an extraordinary combination of biological systems that seemed almost designed to challenge scientific understanding. Tinel, a dark-skinned Yal student, raised a tentacle. Is it true that humans can survive in conditions that would kill most other species? Reiki nodded. Precisely. Humans have an adaptive capacity that borders on the miraculous. Their immune system is not just a defensive mechanism, it's an intelligent, dynamic network that learns and adapts at an unprecedented rate. She zoomed in on the holographic representation, highlighting the complex interplay of white blood cells, antibodies, and cellular memory. Most species have specialized immune responses. The carrion immune system, for instance, is highly targeted but relatively inflexible. Oral immunology relies heavily on prophylactic treatments. Humans. They improvise. A murmur of fascination rippled through the classroom. Take their response to viral infections, Reiki continued. Where other species might require extensive medical intervention, humans often develop immunity through exposure. Their bodies don't just fight infections, they learn from them, creating a comprehensive defense strategy that evolves in real time. The hologram shifted, showing microscopic views of human cellular responses. Complex protein interactions, rapid antibody generation, the ability to modify immune responses on the fly, it was a biological ballet of unprecedented complexity. Ramir couldn't contain herself. But how? What evolutionary pressure could create such an adaptive system? Reiki's expression softened. This was where human biology transcended pure science and entered the realm of evolutionary poetry. Survival in extreme diversity. Humans evolved on a planet with wildly varying environments, from scorching deserts to freezing polar regions, from dense forests to open plains. Their biology became a testament to adaptability. She pulled up historical images, early human migrations, adaptations to different climates, technological innovations that extended their survival capabilities. Unlike most species that specialized, humans generalized. Their biology is a Swiss Army knife of survival mechanisms. The lecture continued, diving deeper into human physiological mysteries. Their capacity to regulate body temperature through sweating, a mechanism almost unique in the animal kingdom. Their ability to survive on an incredibly diverse diet. The complex hormonal systems that allowed for intricate social bonding and reproduction. But here's where it gets truly fascinating, Reiki said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial tone. Their reproductive strategy defies all conventional biological logic. The students leaned in, collectively holding their breath. Most species have precise mating cycles, regulated by clear hormonal triggers. Humans. They've turned reproduction into an almost constant possibility. Pheromonal responses, psychological bonding, physiological readiness, all operate on a level of complexity that makes traditional biological models look like children's drawings. Tinel looked bewildered. But isn't that inefficient? Reiki's laugh was sharp, almost musical. Inefficient? No. Brilliantly adaptive. Humans can form pair bonds that last decades, create complex familial structures, and maintain genetic diversity through a reproductive strategy that's less about timing, more about connection. The hologram now displayed intricate charts showing human population growth, genetic diversity, and reproductive strategies. Each graph told a story of biological innovation that left other species in awe. As the lecture concluded, Reiki knew she had only scratched the surface. Human biology wasn't just a subject of study, it was a revelation, a biological paradigm that challenged everything the Stellar Confederation thought they understood about life, adaptation, and survival. Little did her students know, the most profound revelations were yet to come. The medical frontier. The research facility hummed with an electric anticipation. Miss Reiki had been invited to participate in a special symposium, a rare gathering of the Confederation's top xenobiological researchers, all eager to discuss the most perplexing species in known space, humans. Dr. Zarin, a venerable Carian researcher with centuries of experience, looked particularly agitated. His crystalline exoskeleton refracted the holographic displays, casting prismatic light across the conference room. "We cannot continue to ignore the medical implications," he insisted, his translator device rendering his complex click language into precise Federation standard. Reiki knew exactly what he meant. Human medical capabilities were nothing short of revolutionary, a biological technology that defied every established understanding of healing and regeneration. "Consider their approach to trauma," she began, bringing up a series of medical scans. "Where most species require extensive cellular reconstruction or would be permanently disabled, humans demonstrate an almost miraculous capacity for recovery." The holographic display showed a series of comparative images. A Ural specimen would require complete limb regeneration after a similar injury. A Zra would need months of specialized treatment. A human. Surgical intervention, rehabilitation, and remarkably rapid recovery. Dr. Millicorp, a renowned xenomedical specialist from the NEMI Research Collective, leaned forward. Her tentacular appendages moved with precise scientific excitement. "Their cellular regeneration is not just quick, it's intelligent. Their stem cell capabilities suggest a level of biological programming we've never encountered." Reiki nodded. "It's not just physical healing. Their neurological recovery is equally remarkable. Brain plasticity that allows for complete functional rewiring after traumatic injuries. Adaptive neural networks that can essentially reroute themselves." The symposium room fell silent. This was more than medical science. This was a fundamental reimagining of biological potential. The conversation shifted to human psychological resilience, a topic that had baffled researchers for generations. Humans seem to possess an almost impossible capacity to survive psychological trauma. Where other species might be completely debilitated by extreme stress, humans not only survived but often emerged stronger. Post-traumatic growth, Reiki explained. A uniquely human concept. Not just survival, but active psychological transformation in response to extreme challenges. Dr. Zarin's crystalline form seemed to shimmer with a mixture of frustration and grudging respect. "They break every rule of biological limitation we've established." But it was more than just medical capability. The human approach to healthcare itself was revolutionary. Their medical systems weren't just about treatment, they were about comprehensive biological optimization. Genetic screening, preventative medicine, holistic health approaches that considered psychological and physiological components simultaneously. Most species had highly specialized medical interventions. Humans created entire systems of wellness. As the symposium continued, Reiki found herself reflecting on her personal experiences. Her partner Caden, a prime example of human biological complexity. His body was a testament to adaptive potential. Small injuries would heal with remarkable speed. Psychological challenges seemed to fuel his growth rather than diminish him. The final presentation of the day would prove to be the most controversial. Reiki had been researching something that would challenge everything the Confederation understood about biological potential. Human genetic adaptability. "We've discovered something extraordinary," she began, her voice cutting through the room's ambient murmur. "Humans don't just adapt to their environment. They fundamentally reshape their genetic expression in response to environmental and psychological stimuli." The holographic display showed complex genetic mapping, DNA strands that seemed to reshape themselves, genetic markers that could activate or deactivate based on experiences, on learning, on environmental interaction. It wasn't just genetic inheritance. It was genetic conversation. Dr. Millicorp's tentacles trembled. Are you suggesting human genetics are dynamic? Responsive? Not just responsive, Reiki corrected. Conversational. Their genetic code doesn't just pass information. It negotiates with environmental inputs, with psychological states, with collective experience. The implications were staggering. A species whose very genetic structure was a living, breathing system of adaptation. Not fixed. Not predetermined. But constantly in dialogue with existence itself. As the symposium concluded, Reiki knew they had witnessed something profound. Humans weren't just another species in the stellar confederation. They were a biological revolution. And their story was just beginning. The psychological frontier. The Confederation's Psychological Research Center was unlike any other facility in known space. Situated on a carefully neutralized asteroid, it represented the collective efforts of multiple species to understand the most complex cognitive system they'd ever encountered, the human mind. Miss Reiki arrived with a portfolio of research that would challenge everything her colleagues thought they knew about consciousness, adaptation, and mental resilience. Dr. Eleanor, a urocognitive specialist whose translucent form seemed to shimmer with intellectual intensity, greeted her. Your latest findings are unprecedented, he said, his neural tendrils flickering with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. The central chamber was a marvel of technological integration. Holographic displays mapped neural pathways, quantum processors analyzed complex psychological data, and at the center of it all, human psychological profiles that defied every established model of sentient cognition. Humans don't just process information, Reiki began her presentation. They transform it. Where most species have relatively static cognitive patterns, human brains are essentially living, breathing ecosystems of thought. The holographic display came alive with intricate neural mapping. Unlike the linear, predictable neural networks of most species, human brain activity looked like a complex, ever-shifting galaxy of connections. Dr. Eleanor's tendrils coiled with scientific excitement. Their neuroplasticity is beyond anything we've ever documented. It's not just adaptation, it's continuous reinvention. Reiki nodded. Exactly. Most species have fixed cognitive pathways. Learn a skill, and those neural connections remain relatively stable. Humans. Their brains are constantly rewiring themselves. Learning isn't just information absorption, it's fundamental neural reconstruction. The display showed a series of comparative brain scans. Azra's brain remained largely unchanged throughout its lifetime. A carrion brain showed minimal neural plasticity. But a human brain? It was a constantly evolving landscape, with neural pathways forming, dissolving, and reforming with incredible speed. Psychological trauma, Reiki continued, doesn't just challenge humans. It becomes a catalyst for psychological transformation. She pulled up a series of case studies, human individuals who had experienced extreme psychological challenges and emerged not just intact, but fundamentally enhanced. A war veteran who developed unprecedented empathy after combat. A survivor of extreme isolation who developed complex problem-solving skills. Individuals who transformed profound pain into creative and intellectual breakthrough. Their brains don't just heal, Dr. Eleanor murmured. They optimize. The research went deeper. Human emotional intelligence was equally revolutionary. Most species had relatively straightforward emotional responses, clear triggers, predictable reactions. Humans possessed an emotional complexity that bordered on the quantum. The ability to experience multiple, seemingly contradictory emotions simultaneously. The capacity to find humor in tragedy, to generate hope in despair, to transform pain into creativity. Emotional alchemy, Reiki called it. The unique human ability to not just experience emotions, but to fundamentally reshape their psychological landscape through emotional processing. The most shocking discovery, however, was yet to come. Collective psychological adaptation, Reiki announced, bringing up a series of complex data models. Humans didn't just adapt individually. They adapted collectively. Cultural experiences, shared traumas, collective challenges, these weren't just social phenomena. They were fundamentally reshaping human psychological potential. A global pandemic didn't just challenge human survival. It accelerated human technological innovation. Economic challenges didn't just create stress, they generated unprecedented levels of creative problem-solving. Dr. Elinar's form seemed to pulse with a mixture of respect and existential challenge. "They're not just a species," he said softly. "They're a continuously evolving psychological system." As the presentation concluded, Reiki knew they were witnessing something profound. Humans weren't just another entry in the Confederation's taxonomic records. They were a living demonstration of psychological potential, a species that didn't just survive challenges, but transformed them into evolutionary advantage. The psychological frontier of human potential was infinite. And they had only begun to understand its depths. The evolutionary horizon. The Stellar Confederation Assembly Hall fell silent. Representatives from hundreds of alien species sat transfixed as Miss Reiki prepared to deliver the most comprehensive report on human biology ever compiled. Caden sat in the front row, a living testament to the complexity his species represented. His presence was both personal support and scientific exhibit, a bridge between human potential and alien understanding. "We stand at the precipice of the most significant biological discovery in Confederation history," Reiki began, her scaled form illuminated by holographic projections that seemed to pulse with living energy. The displays showed a comprehensive map of human biological potential, not just as it was, but as it could be. Genetic adaptability, neurological plasticity, immunological innovation, all converging into a singular, breathtaking narrative of evolutionary potential. Dr. Zarin, the elder Carian researcher who had been skeptical from the beginning, now leaned forward with unmistakable respect. The crystalline structure of his body seemed to vibrate with the weight of realization. "Humans are not just a species," Reiki continued. "They are a living system of continuous adaptation. Where most species reach an evolutionary plateau, humans transform that plateau into a launching pad." The holographic displays began to tell a story of unprecedented biological innovation. Genetic markers that could be activated or deactivated by experience. Neural pathways that rewrote themselves in response to challenge. An immune system that didn't just defend, it learned, evolved, anticipated. "Consider their approach to space exploration," she said, bringing up a series of images showing human technological and biological adaptations. Where other species required extensive genetic modification to survive extraterrestrial environments, humans approached it as a challenge of innovation. Specialized spacesuits became biological interfaces. Radiation protection evolved from external technology to genetic resilience. Where other species saw limitations, humans saw opportunities for transformation. The psychological data was equally profound. Humans didn't just survive challenges, they metabolized them into growth. Economic collapses, global pandemics, technological disruptions, each became a catalyst for unprecedented innovation. Their reproductive strategy alone defies conventional biological understanding, Reiki explained. Not just a method of genetic continuation, but a complex system of social and emotional bonding that generates collective resilience. Caden caught her eye, a knowing smile passing between them. Their relationship was itself a testament to human biological complexity, an interspecies connection that transcended traditional biological boundaries. The final presentation revealed the most shocking discovery. Human biological potential wasn't just adaptive. It was recursive. Each generation didn't just inherit genetic information, it engaged in a dialogue with it. Environmental experiences, collective challenges, individual growth, all became part of a dynamic genetic conversation. Not predetermined. Not fixed. But continuously negotiated. Dr. Millicorp, the NEMI researcher, spoke for many when she said, "They're not just a species. They're a biological process." As the presentation concluded, the Confederation Assembly faced a profound realization. Humans weren't just another entry in their galactic catalogue of sentient species. They were a living demonstration of evolutionary potential. A species that didn't just survive, but transformed survival into an art form. Miss Reiki looked out over the assembled representatives. Hundreds of alien species, each with their own evolutionary history, now confronting a biological paradigm that challenged everything they thought they understood. Humans, she said softly, are not just alive. They are life itself, in its most dynamic, most unpredictable, most extraordinary form. The silence that followed was not just respect. It was wonder.